So I'm doing some adventures in streaming again. Trying to catch up with some recent releases, and I'm just gonna throw my hat into the ring and a few cents at you, and here goes. So, Smile, which came out last year. It's directed by somebody named Parker Finn. Apparently, he had a short film, and it's just like kind of based on it, like an expansion. So it stars Sosie Bacon, who apparently is the 30-year-old daughter of Kevin Bacon and Kyra Sedgwick. And it might be just the intensity of playing this character, Rose Cotter, in this movie. I thought she was about 40 or older. I mean, not that she looks aged or anything. It's 40-year-old women now, look great in my generation. Well, but I gotta say, I thought she was older. But anyway, she's 30. She's very good in this. So here's the deal. Basically, she has this traumatic. Sorry, it's not a boring movie, but anyway, I'm tired. She has this traumatic event that her and her sister went through with their mom, who was mentally ill and killed herself. And the sister had gone off and, I don't know, out partying or doing other things. And Rose had to witness this. And you eventually find out, and I don't really think this is a spoiler per se, because it could have been a big twist, but they blew it. So what you find out is that, she had an opportunity to call for help. Her mom begged her to call like 911, and she didn't do it. So she let her mom die. Now, first of all, that plot point is kind of similar to Get Out, where Chris, played by the amazing Daniel Kaluuya, his big fear and of guilt that comes out, when he's being kind of mind fucked by the neoliberal family, the neoliberal body snatchers, is he thought he could have somehow saved his mom or gotten help for his mom, but he just sat and watched cartoons. So that's never happened to me with a human, thank goodness. But it did happen to me similarly with an animal pet I had, that maybe I could have saved if I hadn't woken up my parents sooner. Long story. But anyway, it wasn't like a domesticated animal. My dad had brought us chickens, and we had kind of a little chicken farm in the back. So an opossum attacked the chicken, but I didn't know this. I was just hearing these weird screams. And I was up really late. I think I was probably jerking off. Let's be straight up, man. And also probably drawing erotic drawings while jerking off. And I had the TV on, and everything was going off. It was getting so late, and they used to have a little blurb that had footage of the first man landing on the moon, and the song was America. They banned America. Don't give up until you get a silver cup, and then blah 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 blah. Anyway, so it's supposed to be inspiring or whatever. But anyway, that song always depressed me after that. Because while it was playing, my mother chicken was, getting ripped apart by this opossum. You didn't know you were going to into a true crime episode. Okay. Anyway, it's more involved than that, and it didn't really traumatize me that much, but it really kind of traumatized my mom. But definitely was a wake up. First time I'd seen real animal death and blood. So, and I was a non-poultry eater during the time we had chickens, so my mom made me be one. I am one today. Thanks, Mom. So, wherever you are. And but I felt that feeling when I saw Get Out. That's how I felt, like, oh, I'm just gonna sit here, not sure if I should. What should I do? And it did haunt me for quite a while. I will say. I mean, when I would think about it, I'd be like, wow. Felt kind of bad, Anyway, so that's the point they got for Rose Cotter, the character played by Sosie Bacon in this film called Smile. but it's not a big plot point. It's kind of like a big, well, anyway. The bottom line is she because of this, she's dedicated herself to helping mentally ill people. So she's like a therapist and works in basically, a mental hospital. And, her patients are, excuse me, her patients are pretty far gone for the most part. I mean, they're, it's kind of like Victoria Hellstrom in the show Hellstrom. Not that far gone because they're not possessed by, Satan's other daughter. I forgot the name of the character, the demon. That's a great show. Anyway, it was a great show. But it is that kind of like, almost like too unbelievable. Like some of the people you would think, I mean, there might be people like that there, but you would think they'd be a little more medicated or treated but she's like just one-on-one talking with them and they're just like, woo, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I've had my share of mental breakdowns. I never got woo, but I almost did get woo. And so, yeah. So you get a young girl, kind of a grungy teenage chick who I don't know the actress, who actually looks a lot like her. I think they're kind of fucking with us. And she says that, this being is appearing and changing shape into these different people that she knows. And then she can always tell it's not the real person because she has this crazy smile, and almost like this death rictus, like the Joker. So not quite that exaggerated, not to where they use like animatronics or CGI like in a Japanese movie which this has been used, influenced a ton of, American horror movies where the, mouth gets super big, like in an unreal way. So it's not like that. I mean, it's a real smile, but it is creepy and big. And she kills herself and in front of Rose. So that's the thing. It's like a curse. So in this sense, the plot points are similar to several Japanese films. It's kind of like The Ring. In The Ring, Ringu, you see the tape, and then you get the phone call from Sadako. Check out my Sadako versus Kayako video, please. I was very happy with the way it came out. It was a fun movie. So anyway, when before you die, you see the ring. So in the ring, you can in some iterations because different iterations of the franchise of the Ring movies, American and Japanese, change the lore up a bit. As I mentioned in that movie review where I did Sadako versus Kayako, a lot of people on Shudder were complaining in the comment section, you fucked up the details of the continuity of the Ring movies, fuck you. And I saw it as it's its own interpretation, not like exactly a remake, but kind of like the movie I was trying to remember that I couldn't remember during that review. I really like is called The Ring Virus, and it is a South Korean quasi adaptation of the novel Ringu. And a little expansion, and it does change some of the lore, some of the rules. Like you have 3 days to live, or a week to live, or 2 days to live. In Sadako versus Kayako, it was 2 days. In the original Ringu, it was a week. That's just too long, man. I don't know. It's not enough suspense, or maybe more. I don't know. But you can get rid of this by showing someone else the videotape. But they try it in Sadako versus Kayako, and it kind of doesn't exactly work. But anyway, I did a review, so watch that. I'll talk in depth about all that, the plot. So in this way, it's she finds out this thing by witnessing these suicides. It's been like a chain thing, and she's the latest. So this girl has killed herself to be free of seeing this entity that smiles at her, shapeshifter, And so now she sees it all the time. And it's gradual, and of course there's, is she crazy? Is it really there? And some jump scares and stuff like that. But to get rid of it, she has to kill somebody. So, so it kind of like inverts the whole thing about, if she commits suicide in front of somebody, they get it. So it's a chain that's traced back over time. A few years earlier, to this convict who, had become like possessed by, seeing it, the smile person thing, and committed a really, really, really bloody act of murder, and the psychic, intensity of the violent death negated it. The entity, whispered away. But so he had broken it, but anyone else never were able to break it. It went down. So it's a long time before you find out all this, and to be honest, nobody believes her that she's seeing the thing. They don't even believe that what the girl told her. They don't act like they don't even believe the girl actually said it. It's not just that girl was crazy. It was like, what? You're crazy. That girl didn't say that. And I'm like, she's a therapist. She's a psychotherapist. Why is everybody patronizing her? The saving grace to this accretion of annoying events. It's kind of like when I first saw Candyman. I didn't like it. Sorry. I love it now, of course. I didn't like it because it's like nobody believed Helen. Helen just happens to be there when Candyman kills somebody. And I just thought it was hackneyed. And I love the way it's done now. I think the style and intensity of it make up for that being kind of a sore point. It's like a personal thing that irks me in some certain kinds of movies that try to be suspenseful. So this has that same thing. Everybody thinks she's crazy. Her boyfriend is played by Jessie T. Usher. Now, he's an African-American actor who first became kind of known as Shaft the Third. John Shaft the Third. So his grandfather was Shaft, John Shaft, like Shaft, with Richard Roundtree in the old films. And then his father was John Shaft's son, John Shaft Jr., or John Shaft II, or just John Shaft, played by Samuel Jackson, in a movie also called Amazingly Shaft. Then there was a recent movie called Believe It or Not, Shaft. And this kid, the cat Jesse Usher, he did a pretty good job, and he was like, his father had named him John Shaft Jr., even though he technically was the third, or JJ, but he kind of abandoned him. So then you kind of have the family reunion with the three generations, and they go fuck up some people and fight some crime. And Jesse Usher's character is he's kind of like a more nerdy guy. He's not like a big tough guy like his father and grandfather, but he still has his skills. So then I saw Jesse Usher in the incredible series called The Boys, which I've talked about in one video in here called The Boys versus Ms. Marvel, which I think is a hilarious video. You can decide whether that means it's good or bad. But he plays A-Train, the super callous, totally corrupt, depraved, sexually fucked up speedster of the team. Who accidentally killed the main character's girlfriend by, speeding by her and smashing her body to pieces. So, he's always going to be a sore point for our main character. I think they're on season 3 now. Yeah. Yes, so season 4 is coming up. So anyway, other than that Shaft movie, I realized that that's the only thing I've seen him in is that. And in this movie, at first, okay, he's like kind of being likable. I thought, oh, okay. And it was a little unnerving because A-Train is really even though they try to give him make him somewhat sympathetic in season 3, but that's good writing. He's showing that he is a 3-dimensional character. but overall, he's a piece of shit. You know, he has some redeeming qualities. He tries to do a few decent things as long as something's in it for him, and then he just ends up being a callous dick again. So in this movie, he not so gradually turns into the callous dick. He's annoying. He's whiny. You know, he's not like the angry, cocky A train. He's kind of like this prissy, anal retentive, rich guy. You know, and he's just like very entitled and anal retentive and has annoying qualities and corrects his girlfriend. I mean, that's not a huge part of the movie, but it's there. It's like the ticks are there. And so when she starts seeing this thing and confides only in him, he doesn't handle it well. And when I say he doesn't handle it well, I don't mean he's like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to my girlfriend, a demon. It's more like, Rose, what the fuck wrong with you, girl? You know, it's that, he doesn't say that, but that's how he acts. He gets all exasperated, you know, and maybe it's revealing the limitations of him as an actor. I don't know, but maybe he's somebody who it's easy for him to slip into asshole mode, you know. So because it works, you know, because you hate his guts. So I did, and he's really horrible. So you have this annoying situation. Her older sister, the one who avoided the problems with the insane mom, she's like this bleach blonde yuppie type, you know, and who's married and has cookouts and barbecues with the kids and everything, all American, and she kind of patronizes Rose a lot too. So basically, Rose has to internalize all this stuff going into the movie, the stuff about her past, because of the way her sister acts and what happened, and the fact, you know, only she knows she could have saved her mom. But then once this smile creature starts appearing, she's kind of forced to internalize those feelings because no one wants to hear it. So that, yes, that's a metaphor for mental illness. Nobody wants to believe it, or, you know, nobody takes you seriously, and you can't open up to anybody, or you've been sexually assaulted, or I can't say that on YouTube. You know, those kind of things, and no one listens, you know, like the Me Too movement. And so it's a metaphor for all those things. So Sosie Bacon kind of saves the movie because she plays it straight all the way through. There's no like quips and humor in the movie. I mean, I think there's like one or two quips, but not by the main characters. And though Jessie Usher's kind of a walking quip, and she plays it really straight, and it's pretty somber. She's a pretty hopeless character, and they don't deviate from that. Near the end, you think they do a bait and switch. Once you find out that she's been carrying this guilt about her mom, they make you think, oh, this is how she confronts the demon, by facing her fears, and the demon's banished. And I thought that was stupid because that again, that plot point has been used in numerous films and books. And but that turns out to be a hallucination. This movie uses another tried and true trope where something starts happening and then it gets really, really bad and fucked up. And then boom, no, it's not really real. It's a dream, or she's lapsed into this hallucination, like when Veronica and the fly is giving birth to the larva, and then she wakes up and that's not really what happened. And we can name tons of movies, but this movie does it fairly well. I mean, I will admit the 2 or 3 times they do it, I did think it was really happening. They don't really give you any sign that it's not real until you find out it's not real, and she's snapped back. By this time, by the ending time, the time it happens near the ending, I was a little off balance, off kilter. I wasn't expecting it to be, but like I said, it seemed real. But then I thought the plot point was so terrible, I was kind of hoping it wasn't real, and yeah, it wasn't real. Because it didn't make sense with what we've established, the rules, so to speak, of this demon. What it does. All this stuff. So nobody had ever mentioned that facing your fears would have anything to do with it before that little sequence. So in that sequence, she had burned her childhood house down. She'd had the whole flashback in the bedroom with her mom. So like you can probably tell by now if you haven't seen it. I mean, it has a lot of, it's very derivative of a lot of other stuff. But I will say it's very well paced. It's very well shot. The little bit of violence there is pretty, pretty intense. I mean, cool gore, cool from a gore level. Not really, like Serbian film, kind of squirmy discomfort or fear, or not fear, dread, like Cannibal Holocaust. But kind of like, oh wow, okay, so but her performance anchors it because Jesse Usher, every time he's on screen, he gets worse, and the movie's starting to careen off a cliff when he starts talking. Rose, I'm trying to help you. I'm like, dude, goodbye. But she's too weak to. That's another thing they're doing, the enabling and the abuser. She's too weak to break up with him, even though he's obviously a cocksucker. And I mean, I'm using that as an insult, not talking about his sexual proclivities. And the thing is, that part's almost unbelievable. You're almost like, well, she's a therapist. She can tell he's abused. This is not healthy. But that's the point, I think. She expects him to be something he's not. And he turns out to be the kind of thing that, she probably treats people, who have dealt with those things. And so after you find out the fire and the confronting the fear isn't real, you're left with her at the house, like, still at the house. Now, one person does believe her, and that's her ex-boyfriend. I forgot his name, and I'm gonna call him Dan. I don't think that's wrong, but Dan. Let me see. My cheat sheet here. Do I have a cheat sheet available? I was gonna try not to use one, but it's just too tempting to try to be accurate here. Oh, Cal Penn is in this movie as this annoying doctor who's her boss, and he is really terrible. So Joel, I believe, is her. Yeah, Joel. So Joel is a cop. So this is, convenient. He's a cop. So, when that girl kills herself in front of Rose, they're brought in, him and his partner, and you don't know then that she was involved with him. You have no idea. You just think, oh, he's a cop, but he has a vested interest in her welfare, and then you find out when he approaches her, I forgot, she's got some people around her hanging out or something, and oh no, she's at work, and he's trying to like say, hey, sorry about the other day, and I hope you're okay, or and I hope we're basically like, not like, are we cool, but are we cool? And she's very rude, and they're like, we're not cool, so I'm busy, fuck off. But then she goes to him, to Dan, aka Joel, played by Kyle Gallner, and he does a good job. He's a good guy, good cop. Obviously he's a fictional character, and sorry, and so of course you learn toward the end, in the middle of all these revelations, that because you think once she's faced her fear, she goes home to Joel and said, like, I realized I fucked up our relationship because of this mental stuff I had built up. But that's when you find out it's not really happening. So then she's at the shack, and it looks like a shack. It's her old house. It's all dilapidated. And the real Joel comes, and then she's like, no, and runs into the house. So for a second, you think she's thinking, well, that wasn't real, what I just experienced. That wasn't really Joel. This isn't really Joel either. It's the smile creature. And that plot point was similar to some of the things in Pyewacket, which I also reviewed on this channel. And the Pyewacket did it much, much more effectively. Because the girl in the end is like so tripped out and finally convinced that her real mom is obviously the demonic, doppelganger, that she like burns her alive to death. So there goes the spoiler for Pyewacket. But anyway, I liked Pyewacket a lot. So she runs from Joel, and now she's met the demon inside, and you have seen some of these, the demon shape shifting and all this kind of stuff. The demon kind of looks like her mom, kind of looks like her, but really distorted and gnarled, kind of like the creature in Wreck, and kind of like obviously a lot of Japanese horror movies, like with Sadako and Kako, and Walks Funny. All this started with J horror, so you have tons of echoes of J horror in this one. But I will say, I think it kind of has some of that sickly green photography that's so prevalent in the last like 20 years, but it's a little more grounded, a little more dark. I mean, physically, dark as in black, the color, the hue, the tone, more earth tones. It's like more of a warm, not a cold film. Like the green, sickly green illumination is like a cold color kind of thing, and so that matches her performance. The kind of, it's almost drab. It's not drab like Suspiria, the remake. Now that was deliberately drab, as a counterpoint to the original being so colorful and baroque. And was that a good choice? I don't know. I'll let you answer that. I haven't reviewed the remake of Suspiria, and I don't plan to do it. So, I've seen the movie twice, so she's seen the creature and is hobbled around toward her, like Kako, and then so yeah, she's in the thing, and you had seen her using some gasoline earlier to light a lantern, kerosene, to look through her house because there's no electricity. So apparently that part is real. They don't flash it back and like rewind and show you what real and wasn't. You have to kind of spill this in on your own, and it's fine. It's not a stretch. It's not like contrived, I don't think. I mean, I was kind of like, why is the kerosene thing there when we never saw her, in reality? We saw her in that hallucinatory vignette. We never saw her in reality with the lantern. But that's fine. You can kind of suspend disbelief, and think, okay, she's in the house, the lantern's there. Because we don't see what she's doing. From the time she runs from Joel, and then Joel finally gets in, I guess that's when she got the kerosene thing, and I don't know, maybe she got the idea from her hallucination. I don't know. But it's key. It's a key plot point, even though, like I said, it's kind of not a stretch, but it's not totally a smooth, thing, the way it's done. And she's got her back turned to Joel, and she's, he's trying to talk to her, and it's the real him, and she knows it's the real him by this time. So she turns around and she's got the smile, and she's emptied the kerosene on herself. So, everybody knows what's going to happen next. So she had the choice at one point to kill somebody to be free, right? And she even seriously was contemplating who to kill. Just seriously contemplating to kill herself. And then, she went to the house, and that was kind of her last. I think she was originally going to kill herself there, but when she confronted those demons and then had the happy ending, it was like, okay, cool, that worked. But then what didn't really happen. So she's finally gone insane, and I forgot there. I think there's like a time. I could be wrong. I think it's a little bit more also like The Ring, in that there's some kind of amount of time it takes each of these people to just flip out and kill themselves. So she's kind of reached the tether, the breaking point. So she's smiling at him, and for a second I thought, well, is that the demon smile? Demon? It's like, no, because now the demon has crawled inside her. Because what you saw right before Dan managed to get in was the demon overtaking her, and it's stretching and elongating, and again, like a lot like the Japanese ghost characters, and J Hart stretches her mouth open in a completely unreal way, but it's cool. It's like the uncanny valley thing, and starting to crawl in, which was a cool idea. I think they could have done a little more with it visually. They just kind of cut it real fast as it's starting. But you get it when he confronts her. So the demon is inside of her. She's insane. She's the host for the thing. So it's time for Rose to be discarded as the host. So that means Rose has to kill herself, which means she has to pass the curse onto a new host. So that's what happens. So she flicks the lighter, and Joel sees her die, and it's illuminated in his eyes. It's pretty cool the way it's done at the end. So obviously he's going to get the smile curse next. I wasn't expecting her to actually die. I was expecting her to somehow lick it, because this is an American horror movie, right? A modern American horror movie. But evil triumphs, and that's some people are like, yeah, that's exactly what I thought was going to happen, and blah blah blah. Because there are some nihilistic strains of these films, in recent years, the Hostel and that kind of torture porn strain of film. But in general, with the PG-13 horrors, there's some kind of, I don't want to say happy ending, maybe an ambiguous ending, and but like Midsummer had a happy ending. The ending of his other movie, whatever the movie was called, Hereditary. Now that movie, was seeming like evil conquers, evil wins, because your main character dies, kind of pointless, banal death, and then the son's possessed by Paimon, and they go, hail Paimon. I thought that was a happy ending because it was so funny. It was like, it was funny to me. I don't mean I'm making fun of it. I just mean it was kind of joyful. It was like, oh wow, this is like Rosemary's Baby. The year is one, and that kind of, I wasn't expecting that at all. No, I've read people who said they were expecting that thread of the cult thing and everything all along. I was ignorant to it. I didn't see the signs. I didn't see the red flags. So when it went that direction, I was like, wow, okay. So that was a happy ending in a weird way. So this movie is not a happy ending. It's like, okay, she dies. She burns herself to death. She's possessed by the demon. That's it. And the only person who believed her and who loved her the most is now going to be fucked up too. So that's a cold realization. It's pretty harsh. And like I said, the way it's shot and the way her acting and her character is portrayed, it's very consistent through that. It's like what I've talked about on this channel before, that someone taught me about, horror and suspense fiction is like the unity of effect. So in other words, everything you're putting forth is essential to driving your story, the engine to where you get to, the final, just unbearable terror, and you've logically built toward it. You haven't gone off on tangents. Now, of course, popular storytelling nowadays, people are allowed to go off on tangents, TV series and extended long form storytelling, obviously. But so there aren't too many movies, especially, this is horror is what uses this unity of effect the most, I think, or most blatantly, maybe the most effectively. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a good example. Everything that happens in that movie, from the beginning with the sunspots all the way to the end where she's completely crazy, Sally, it's all building to that thread. There's no like tributaries, going off like, we're gonna show Franklin hanging out for a while, and he's gonna start talking about his favorite movies and pop culture. Oh, this is 18 years before, I'm sorry, 16, 17 years before Reservoir Dogs. So that's unity of effect. So this movie kind of had it. I mean, I'm not saying each build was 100% effective, and a lot of them were predictable and used tropes we've seen a million times. But it did stay on course towards it. It exhausts her possibilities. Even the one you think they throw at you that, oh, it was her fault mom died. She carries this guilt, she's facing her fear. So we've seen that trope a million times. So then you're like, oh, they're throwing this in. So when that doesn't work, there's no other choice but for her to succumb and carry on the curse. So I have kind of a mixed review of it. I think her performance was very thoughtful. I think it was very authentic. Not all the performances were authentic. I mean, Cal Penn as the head of the mental hospital was a total fucking clown. And he's gained a huge amount of weight, or else maybe they made him look bigger for the character. I don't know. He's not exactly a method actor, so it's not like I'm going to put on 35, 40 pounds to play and smile, stretch my acting muscles. You know, he doesn't have any. So, you know, last I heard of Cal Penn, first he was in that movie with the other guy, Kumar, Harold, the other guy, and they're, eating hamburgers or whatever. And the Asian guy, I can't think of his real name. And then, he's suddenly trying to become a serious actor, then kind of a comedian. But the last project he was involved in, sadly for me telling this story, but happily because I hated it. I've forgotten a lot of the details, but it was a heavy propaganda experience. I can't remember if it was some kind of symposium that was serious, and it had to do with serious things like politics or things that are happening in the world, or some kind of event enshrining the neoliberal ascendancy of neoliberalism. And he's like the host. He's like the court jester or the token Hollywood celebrity who appears in this and bolsters this ideology. I could search it on Google and find out what it is, but it was frightening. It was much more frightening than Smile by far. To just see this guy be like, fuck Harold and Kumar, fuck being a stand-up, fuck being a serious actor. I'm just gonna shill the fuck for the fucking Democratic Party, bro. And it was pitiful. So now he's like, I'm back. I'm a real actor. I'm gonna gain 50 pounds and and it's like, no, it failed. Go back to being a shill. Join Marianne Williamson's presidential campaign for 2024. That'd be the best thing for you, Cal. So, see, I'm going off on tributary, so obviously I have not mastered unity of effect with any of my reviews. I'm the master of tangents. But yeah, Jessie Usher was annoying as fuck. Most of the characters were very annoying. The sister character was annoying. The flashbacks with the dying mom, she was annoying. I mean, I don't know. It was weird. So I really liked Rose, and so she's surrounded by all this bullshit. And again, if you want to look at it on a meta level or a subtextual level, that is kind of how things happen when you're really becoming mentally ill and you're gradually becoming more and more mentally ill. And you find out who your friends and family really are. And I've been through all that. I've had my odyssey. And so I guess I could kind of identify with it. I mean, I wasn't feeling all emotionally resonant watching it. I wasn't like tearing up, because I do that when it's really emotionally resonant for me in something. But I was like, oh yeah, okay, right. Joker was a big metaphor for mental illness. Maybe not. I mean, not really a metaphor. It wasn't really subtext. It was text. I didn't tear up and cry in that one either, but I did feel a few emotional resonant little ticks here and there when I watched Joker. Like, yeah, this is how it is when you're losing it and no one cares, or when the mental health professional tells them, yeah, I can't do anything more, we don't have the budget. That's reality. Great scene like that is Thief with James Caan when he tries to adopt a kid, and he starts talking about, I've been in the system since I was a teenager. He's been through the prison system, the mental health system, and and they're basically like, we can't help you, and he's like, what the fuck, what the fuck, man, everything's weighted against you. So this movie, Smile, could have brought all the subjects out in a more powerful fashion. It could have been a lot better. I think Sosie Bacon has the chops as an actress to have pulled that off, but they didn't give it to her. They kept crutching on, like I said, jump scares, hallucinations, like, oh, no, that was a dream, and annoying foil characters like the ones played by Jessie, Usher, and Cal Penn. So it had a lot of things dragging it down, but I got to say, I admire the ending. I admire her performance. I admire the guy who played Joel, Kyle Gallner. I didn't know who he was. So, yeah, I'm going to give it a mixed review. I was going to try to maybe review 2 movies for streaming, but again, I just can't quit talking, so I apologize. But I'm going to go back to my shorter video format. The recent ones I've done have been really short because they were just real specific, like the unboxing and the eBay thing. So this is back to review city for me. So this is a good place to cut it off. It goes 41-41 on the second ticker here. So thanks for listening. If you're so inclined in the comments, since this is obviously a very popular movie and made a fortune, let me know what you thought about Smile, because I'm not going to be offended because I'm not emotionally invested in it or wed to it. But I don't have a reactionary hatred of it either, even though I've given you a ton of reasons why I could have it. So rock on, more coming. I did it again. I can't ever hit that damn thing. All right. I think I'm going to have to do this. Love you guys.